Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. So this Zoom, everybody's getting very used to this, especially me. So for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a certified educational planner and have been that for the last 15 years. I've been in college counseling for almost 20. I worked for MCPS for 19, 20 years, and then I've been here. So, and I've been with Everest. I've done a lot of work with Everest as a consultant, and then I started with and full time in 2018 when I retired from Wooten. So I was also a college application reader for Clemson University for 2 years, and I read many applications, and I was a board member for 2 years with the University of Auburn for high school college admissions. So let's get to it, okay? Where are we? It's very different. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and this is the very first year that I can just sit here and say every single day it is a change, whether it's a school that's gone test optional that I never ever would have assumed or believed they would have. It's just getting, you know, like that all over. What exactly will they look for? How the admissions offices are changing, how they're going to read applications, you name it, everything has changed. Just like it's changed for you and your child, it's changing for admissions. So let's get into it, okay? Over half of the colleges have new policies, and before the end of the application period, I'm saying before probably September 1st, we're going to see probably, and my gut feeling tells us 95% of the colleges are going to be test optional. So, or test aware, test blind, test flexible, and we're going to go through what they are. I'm going to read you something. The Harvard released a statement from 300 admission deans about what they expect from applications during the pandemic and testing requirements. And I'm going to read this. There are several reasons, including the misinformation swirling out there. A lot of people have anxieties and questions because it's such an uncertain time with the SAT and the ACT being canceled. Many schools going pass-fail and other changes. So it was partly due to the response and anxiety and the deans feeling that they could post things on their websites and communicate with parents individually, but if they spoke collectively, it might break through a lot of misinformation and provide reassurance and clarity to students and parents. So Harvard came out with this, and basically that said to every school, you need to put things on your website and you need to be very aware and communicate with parents. So let's get into exactly what it means. So test optional is exactly what it is, test optional. And sometimes words are confusing. So they will say, you know, they want to clarify, but they also confuse. So optional means the students can submit them and they will be evaluated during the process. Here's the other thing that I want to read to you. The Chronicle of Higher Education states, yet providing no disadvantage to test-free applicants isn't quite the same as providing some advantage to those who apply with high scores. Still play a role, but not the starring role. So as you can see, test optional doesn't mean test-free. So it means optional. If your child has a really good test score and they want to submit it, great. It just makes their application stand out, and it also lets schools know that they are, that the test scores verify what their academics were in high school. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about test optional and what you want to do with that. So the test optional means students need to remember the transcript content, and grades throughout high school will be extremely important. And I mean all the way through high school. So grades they even got in middle school that show up on that transcript, all of them are going to be important. So those types of things are important for test optional. So test aware is that they will be taking the test. So they will be taking it and they will be reporting scores, but maybe they haven't taken it yet, or maybe they're going to take it another time. But that means test aware. So the school's aware that you're taking it, and they may be lenient when those test scores are submitted, meaning they may not look at the exact date. So if this application date is November 1, but they know that you're taking that test and they are aware that it's hard to get test dates, they will move back the test option and have it submitted when it's available. So they are aware of it. So you put that on the applications. So what's test blind? Test blind is completely, they don't look at scores. Even if you submit them, they will never be used. Now, there are not very many schools that are test blind, okay? So you need to know what the differences are. Test flexible, okay? This is another word that people are like, well, what does test flexible mean? Is that optional or is it flexible? It's flexible, meaning they still want some type of score. So they either want an AP score, IB score, they might even want a score from school, like in a specific class. They might want a writing sample. They might want a PSAT score. And it's very different for every single school. So you need to understand what they mean, okay? So the more the test schools are optional, test blind, and test flexible, I'm going to tell you the more applications they receive. So it's important to remember that selective is the key word. Okay, for example, the University of Chicago jumped to over 3,000 applications, more applications in the year that they went test optional. Plus, they had a 5.9% acceptance rate. So what does that mean? Test optional is still extremely selective, even at those schools that are saying they're test optional. 5.9 acceptance rate for Chicago. It was lower than Brown, Dartmouth, MIT, Cornell, just to name a few. So you can go onto Google and search that. You'll find it everywhere, that how many more applications. And please remember that the ratings or the rankings from schools are, the more selective they are, the more they deny people, the more selective they are. So you need to understand that when your son or daughter is applying to schools, and they need to make sure everything is the way it should be if they're applying to test optional schools. Okay, so let's see here. What's the most important thing about testing? Absolutely, number one, do not go by your friend's advice. Don't go by your neighbor. Don't go by what somebody else says, because guess what? They could be wrong, okay? Because this changes every single day. The University of Michigan just changed something else. So it changes every day. So you must contact the schools to determine exactly what's required. So some specific examples. Some schools are not test optional, test aware, test blind, test flexible for specific majors, possibly engineering majors or business majors, limited enrollment programs, honors college. All of those things, they may require testing. So that's something that you have to learn and you have to know. So don't go on their website. I mean, their website is going to tell you, but it's also very confusing. If you read the University of Michigan's website and it tells you about being test optional, it will say in one sentence, we're test optional, but in the other sentence, it says you need to send us whatever scores you have. If you don't have SAT or ACT, we are requiring them, and we're also requiring writing samples for specific majors. So you need to contact the representative or the school. Have your child do this, mom and dad. don't have it comes from your child's email account, because it's your child's applying to colleges. I know it's really hard as a parent and a college educator. I just want to do everything for my child, but this is the time they need to take ownership of this and find out what they need for applications. So they need to ask, if they're applying for engineering, what do I have to have? Am I applying for computer science? Some schools are doing test optional only for in-state students. So that's another thing to be aware of, and that is written in a very fine print, okay? The other thing that some schools are test optional for is if you earn a certain GPA. So if you have a GPA that they are not considering good enough for test optional, then you're gonna understand they're gonna come back and say, have you taken the test? So there's all these key factors that you need to know. So the other thing to keep in mind is merit aid. How are schools doing merit aid? Now, almost every selective school out there, so Brown, Dartmouth, Yale, all of those schools are what they call need-based schools. So just like another term that you need to learn, need-based is all based on money, how much money your parents make, okay? Same thing with merit aid. Merit aid is based on extracurriculars, grades, and test scores. So you need to ask them, will I be considered for any merit scholarship without any test score submitted? Some schools will tell you absolutely, no problem. Some schools will say only for this merit scholarship. So it really is going to depend upon the school, and you are not going to find that on a website. You're not. You have to contact them and say. And so a lot of the representatives may not even know, because some of the schools haven't made a final decision about that. So again, we're kind of in, a territory, uncharted territory here where we don't know. So once September hits, and these schools are starting to receive applications and people are working on them, this is when you need to reach out and ask those questions, okay? There is a resource that I want you to write down. It is called FAIR, F-A-I-R, test.org. They are keeping a complete list of schools that are test optional and test aware, test blind, test flexible, and they will have little asterisks after them to say if they know what is required. But again, that's only one resource. I personally would make sure I would contact the schools, because testing is critical, okay? So you also need to know that they're going to have higher application fees this year. That's just one thing you just need to understand all the way around. Some schools have jumped up to at least $100. So just to know that that's coming up. Some schools have moved back their application dates. As I said before, some will wait for your scores to come in, even if you know you're not going to be able to take that test until November. If they have a November 1st deadline, they will possibly wait until middle of December to get your test scores. So again, another question to make sure you ask, because you may decide, you know what, I didn't take the test, I'm going to try. If it causes too much stress to try to take that test and you haven't taken it, we're going to talk about what you need to have to do that. Okay, so a lot of things with testing, again, 4 terms to remember: optional, they still look at test scores for admissions; aware, you're taking them, you're making them aware; test blind, they'll never look at them; test flexible means they require something, okay, whether it's some kind of score or some kind of paper or research project or something, they're going to require it, okay? All right, let's talk to how they're going to evaluate your applications. All right, so grades. That is the very first thing that I will tell you. Without test scores, will be evaluated, and I mean evaluated, fine-tooth comb evaluated. So they're going to look at classes, the type of classes. They're going to look at when you started your classes on your high school transcript, did you start taking algebra in 7th grade? Did you start it in 6th grade? Did you start it in 8th grade? What kind of grades did you get for them? When did you start taking your, your foreign language? Did you continue your foreign language? All of these things are going to be critical. Are you in a magnet program? And if you are, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at the curriculum for that magnet program. If you're in an IB program, they're going to look at the school, the specific school, and if that school has IB diplomas, that's going to be a critical factor for them. How recognized is that IB program? Private schools are very different than public, and they are going to make sure that they know the content of the school and what they offer. So again, context of curriculum, extremely important, because every school is very different. Every high school is extremely different, and they want to know what the context is of the curriculum, meaning what is the average GPA for students at that school. And where is that information? On the school's school profile, okay, the high school profile, it's there. So that is really going to be looked at. And again, they're going to look, did you challenge yourself? Did you start out in regular classes and then move up to honors and move up to AP and then move whatever classes that you have? Did you move up? Were you consistent? Did you take all honors and never took an AP or any specific class other than honors? Did you stay in all regular classes? All of these things are going to be important. So again, this is where if you don't submit test scores, they are really going to look at this 100%. Are you doing well in an AP class? Did you get a C? If you do, you're going to need to explain it, okay? If you're going into, and then here's the other thing, your senior year classes are going to be critical, all right? They are going to probably require a first quarter report card, especially if you're not turning in test scores. They want us to know, how are you doing, okay? How are you coping through all of this? Are you able to manage classes online? Where are you doing? If you think now, right now, sitting here, that an AP class is going to be difficult to do online and you're concerned about your grade, this is the time to contact your counselor and say, I'm concerned, okay? I am not doing well, or however you want to put it, but you need to say, I am stressed about this AP and I don't want to be in it. I want to be in an honors, because the truth is they'd rather see an A in an honors class than even a B in an AP class. Okay, that's a misnomer. All right, and a lot of people don't think that way, but C's and B's on AP classes, B's are okay, but all B's, probably not. Here or there, fine. But if you're especially pulling out a C your first quarter and you know that it's going to be a difficult class, you might want to rethink that one, okay? IB classes, same exact thing. And very important are going to be those grades. If you're in a magnet program, where are you in this magnet program? What have you accomplished? So those are very, very important things. Let's see. Your grades, let's talk about this. If you know you're walking into classes that are very rigorous and you see in the very beginning that you're going to need help, get tutoring. Reach out to the teacher. Find out when they're going to have study groups in your class online, because they're going to have them. Maybe they might not have had them last year, but MCPS is saying they are required this year for kids that are having classes. So if you're struggling, you make sure you find out when that online tutoring is, or you get tutoring, or you ask your parents, or you ask friends, whatever you have to do, but you need to make sure that you understand, and don't wait till it's too late, because once it's over, it's over. The other thing for MCPS students is you will be graded this year. It is not going to be pass fail. So you can't get on with going, okay, I got an A for the last semester, okay, it doesn't matter what my grade is. I don't have to turn in anything because I'm going to get an A. Okay, that was the way it was last semester, March, April, May, and June. It's not going to be that way. So this is the time to buckle down and find out exactly who your teachers are, how they're going to teach the class online, and where, and how you feel about that. Again, it's a personal feeling about doing online classes. I can give you examples when I was online. Part of it was great. Part of it wasn't so great. I'm a learner that you have to see it. You have to see it and do it. Well, that's kind of hard to do online. In fact, I don't see any of you right now. I only see names, which is kind of hard for me to talk because I don't know if you're smiling or you're got a frown on your face and you don't know what you're asking. So all of these things are going to be real important. Some of the schools, I'm also hearing that they are making it requirement that you must be present and online. Your picture must be there. They just won't have your name. So if that's true and you need a camera, you better go get one, because again, all these changes are going to be made. So again, just make sure that you know what you're getting into for this year. The other thing that I want to tell you, extremely important, get your transcript. Contact your high school registrar. If you don't know who it is, go on the school's website, look it up. I have a lot of names of registrars. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to tell you who they are and what their email address is. But contact that registrar, because some transcripts I'm seeing still say pass or fail. And when you told them that you wanted a actual grade for that class. So make sure that that transcript is clean. And I mean, all your classes are there. There's no P and F if that's how you want it. If you want pass and fail, that's fine. Colleges are going to look at either way. So don't let that bother you that you did choose pass or fail. You're not going to be criticized or looked at any differently, because there are many schools that did not offer grades and only offered pass fail. So that is not a problem. Don't let that upset you, but you just need to make sure that that transcript is completely ready, and the classes that you're taking for senior year are posted on that transcript for classes that are upcoming, and make sure they're right, okay? Very, very, very key, important information. I can't stress that enough. All right, so you hear about grades, you know that is number one, what they're gonna look at. All right, next, let me tell you about your extracurricular activities, okay? These have always been very important. How much they look at them, in my experience, the more selective the school is, the more they look at them. This year it's gonna be very different. You've got every public school that's going to be out there that's going to be, looking at everything. There are some schools, honestly, that plugged in your grades, your GPA, and plugged in your test scores. It was run through a computer, and you got a result. Some of those schools, you may not have realized that's even what they did, but they do it, because a lot of them don't tell you that. I know that we did that at Clemson, and that was probably, we did it for certain areas in the state of South Carolina, and nobody knew, because this was almost 20 years ago, and this wasn't heard of, that people just ran applications through a computer. So I never saw extracurricular activities. I never saw letters of recommendation. This year, everybody will have to look at them. So what are they looking for? Okay, authenticity. All right, they need to be authentic. They need to be real. They need to be passion, what you're passionate about, not just your activities in school, okay? Because some of you don't have a lot of activities in school, or some of you only have sports, or only have theater, or only have, clubs. Don't get me wrong, they're important, okay? They're very important, and that's okay that you've had them. However, during the pandemic, and now during the time when you're going to be online, you have an opportunity to broaden your activities outside of school. You're not going to be doing sports. You're not going to be, cheering. You're not going to be dancing. You're not going to be doing a lot of things that you would typically be doing if we were in school. So, hey, do something outside of that box, okay? The other thing about extracurricular activities, something I want you to really think about is, how are you helping others, okay? How are you coping through this pandemic? Colleges want to know, are you tutoring your younger brother or sister so your mom and dad can work out of the house? That's important, guys, okay? Don't think that's not important, because it is. That's a responsibility that you have, and that is leadership, my friend, okay? So that is extremely important. Those are the things that you will talk about this year on applications. Before, I would say, oh, babysitting, okay, that's great. But this year, babysitting and taking care of family members, helping your grandmother, helping an aunt, whatever the case may be, that's going to be important. Can you do, food drives? Can you deliver food? All of those things are important. However, if you can't because of COVID, don't sit and say, I have to go do this, mom and dad, because if if COVID is an issue and you're home and, somebody could be compromised by you going out and doing an activity outside of your home, do not do it, okay? Follow that lead from mom and dad. I don't want to tell you to go do something and then, heaven forbid, you get sick. But there are activities you can do online. The other thing is, continue the activities. I realize you can't play sports, but guess what? You can do workout sessions, okay? You can also do activities like, your clubs. Get together with your club members. Make a meeting, have a Zoom meeting. What are you contributing? What does the club do? So there are still active ways you can be involved in your activities, even at home, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that chatting with your friends via text is gonna be a way of doing, your in-school club. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a completed activity, something you can talk about, okay, in an application. During COVID, I wasn't able to play soccer 5 days a week and have a workout every day after school for 2 hours. But I did this online, or I contacted all our team members. If you're a captain, I contacted all my team members, and we did Zoom. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but you did Zoom exercises. Whatever you do, make sure that you remember it. Don't take it for granted, especially now, okay? Activities are not a laundry list, all right? That's the other thing, that authentic activities are not just, well, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, okay? It means what you're doing, you're passionate about doing. It's meaningful to you. You're doing it because you care. You're doing it because it's necessary. You're doing it because, again, you love it. Maybe you were a cheerleader and maybe you can't cheer and you really love to cheer. Well, could you put together cheers together for other people that are doing cheers that possibly might be in school? Could you help broaden that, experience? What's going to happen in the future? You'll come back to school in January, maybe February. Could you do cheers for other sports other than just basketball and football? Think outside the box, okay? This is the time to think outside the box. Okay, so remember, Google Meets is out there. Obviously, we all talk about Zoom, and obviously that's what it is. But, you can do tons of volunteering virtually. There's tons of opportunities out there. If you didn't have an internship over the summer, or you weren't able to work, again, you weren't able to do camp, again, there's going to be a place to explain that. So please don't be nervous about this. This is something that we can deal with and make your application still shine, even if this didn't happen. So don't stress yourself out and say, the only thing in my life I ever did was sports, because guess what? You're still a person. So, and you still have time to do other things. So again, think outside that box, all right? Get involved with, Cheer for America or Soccer Incorporated. Whatever you can find online, do it, all right? Here's the other thing. When you're filling out your applications, critical. You must explain your activities to the fullest extent, okay? What did you do? How many hours did you do them? What responsibilities did you have? What exactly did you do? Did you babysit? Okay, well, don't just put, I babysat for my neighbor. You can put down a little bit more explanation for that. You have plenty of words to do this, so just make sure that that part of your application shines. Resumes this year are going to be also very important. And again, I used to say resumes didn't have to go into a lot of depth. This year they will. So many things are changing. Again, they don't want a 4-page resume, okay? So if that's the case, we need to cut out some things that are on there. But I will say this year, they will say 2 pages are good. So if you need to do that, but again, be authentic, okay? It's just not a matter of I did. It's how you help. It's what you accomplished. It's you are passionate to be involved in it. Again, all these different things are going to show up on the application, and it needs to shine. Okay, so that's it for extracurriculars. Let's move on. Okay, all right. College application deadlines, as I said in the beginning, for testing and things, they are going to change. There are some schools that are taking off early decision already. You're not going to be able to apply early decision. Some schools are moving back. Now this one on the slide shows that early action is still November 1. However, I want you to see that little asterisk there to make sure that you understand what those asterisks mean. So go online and look to see Maryland, the whole entire state of Maryland, every public school in Maryland are all test optional. Does not mean that they're test optional for everything. So again, some honors programs, some specific programs, they're still requiring tests. So this is something to look at. Regular deadline, if you don't have test scores, it might be to your advantage to wait. However, that's a decision that you and mom and dad have to talk to, or contact me, or whoever you want to contact. You can contact the school, you can reach out to them. But applications are changing and deadlines are changing. Once again, I'm going to repeat myself again, contact the school because they're different. And I will tell you that again, I looked just yesterday at some of the deadlines and I will tell you that they're wrong. So don't rely on Naviance. Don't rely on, College Express or Niche or any of those. You need to go to the actual website, or you need to contact the admissions officer, okay? Again, if you want to know how to do those things, you reach out to me. So application and testing deadlines definitely have changed, all right? Let's move on. Visits and meeting with college admissions representatives. Don't take this lightly, okay? This, demonstrated interest is going to be so important. I just can't even tell you how important it's going to be. Even like I would always talk about demonstrated interest is that if you could go visit, but obviously we can't. So, and believe me, colleges don't want you online. They've got enough issues to deal with students coming back to their campus, and they have a lot of issues going on. So they don't want to organize on-site college visits. However, they all have Zoom college visits. Every single school, every single website that I went to, all have Zoom college admissions, talking. You can email with a representative. These are all ways to show demonstrated interest. Reach out. Zoom interviews, Tulane wants Zoom interviews. They're going to do as many as they can. I will tell you that all the Ivy Leagues that do interviews, they will be by Zoom. So you need to reach out and find out who's doing the interviews, when will they be done. All of those things are extremely important. Don't take it for granted, okay? Online visits. Here's the other thing that I need to stress for you. I just can't even tell you how important this is. And I talk about algorithms. Algorithms they watch what you do online. So they know how many times you go to their website. They know if you have Zoomed anywhere. They know if you've emailed with them. They know if they've sent you an email and you've opened it or you have not. So they are watching this closely, okay? So much more than they ever have before. They're having a whole company do this for them. Many schools are farming this out to a company to get this done for them because schools sometimes don't have time to do this on their own, but they need it done, so they are going to farm it out. Or they're even giving it to their college, to their marketing department, to have them do it as a project for class credit. So it's being done. Don't think it's not. So engaging on Facebook, looking at Twitter, following them on social media, okay? Open your emails, look at all the different sites. I used to tell kids, just open it and close it. Not anymore. Open it and go to a link somewhere in that school. Look at their clubs, look at their academics, look at their specific departments. Look at a blog, okay? Read a blog from an admissions representative. Almost every one of the deans or the admissions directors are doing blogs, and they know how many hits they get. So again, very, very, very important. Here are a couple other blogs to write down. There's one from somebody called Her Campus and another one, Spoon University. So they're another way to look at schools and get an idea of different blogs. Following different groups. So again, cheerleading club, every fraternity, sorority, all of them have specific websites and places to go and to visit. Make sure that you engage somehow because this is going to be extremely important. Use Reddit. Okay, go to Reddit, look up the college information. If you're still unsure of where you want to go or you haven't visited that school, it's critical that you know about that school before you apply because you're wasting your mom and dad's money and you're wasting your time applying to a school and putting it on your list when you don't even like the school or you've read something that you're not happy with. So make sure you do that before you make a decision to apply. The other place that I want to tell you, I've given out these informations, but there's some great ones to do. Watch YouTube videos. There's so many on there. I've been watching them. Some are really good, some are not. But there's also, gosh, excuse me, guys. Sometimes I get tongue twisted. College Reel, COLLEGEREEL. It's one of the best sites out there for students to look and to see what the campuses are all about because these interviews and they're all, videos are all done by students. So you get to see things that you would never see on a tour. So that's another way to do it. And there's one called, I wrote it down here. Where are my notes? You Visit, YOU Visit. Okay, so there's a lot of them out there. Again, you have questions, let us know. So again, engaging, again, put that on your list because it's going to be important this year. All right, let's move on to essays. Okay, so essays have always been important. They always look at essays to make sure that your writing is consistent with your academics. So if you're in an AP English class, your English language class, they're going to expect a little different than somebody that's in honors. So make sure that you write that essay and make it relevant to who you are. You need to write a story. A story is going to be so important this year. It's going to be important to make sure that your punctuation, your, everything is correct. Again, I used to be a little bit, like, not unless you were applying to some of the major schools. In fact, I would tell this story a lot. I had many kids that applied to University of Maryland in my lifetime. And some of them had such high scores and such great GPAs that I assure you, probably not one admission representative read that essay. Don't be surprised. The merit scholarship people read those essays, or if you were going into a limited enrollment, but not the admissions directors. This year, again, they're hiring people to read your essays. So they're making notes on them. They're scoring them. They're looking at punctuation, spelling, transitions, you name it, they're looking at them. I'm not an English person or a writer. Believe me, I'm not, but I will tell you, I know what a good essay is, and a story is going to be important. So do you write about COVID for your main essay? Possibly. If you were affected by COVID, maybe a family member, maybe, somebody, unfortunately, I hate to even bring this up, but somebody that passed away. It brings tears to my eyes because I don't want that to happen for anybody. But if it did, and that's a main part of your essay, then absolutely. However, please remember, you are not alone with this, and millions and millions and millions of kids possibly might write about the essay on COVID. All right, so it's got to be very different. Answer the extra question regarding COVID. Absolutely. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. And some schools are making it a requirement if you don't submit test scores. They want to know why. Why did you not do them? What was the reason? Or did you sign up and you couldn't go? Or was your school going to give them and the school couldn't go? But you're going to need to answer them, okay? You're going to need to answer it about grades. You're going to need to answer it about, gee, I was, a football player and that's what I did. And now I can't do that. So all of these things, I had lined up an internship with NIH and I couldn't do it. All of these things are going to be important for you to write about. So do you answer it? Yes. That is my final answer. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's move on to where we are with letters of recommendation, okay? Please listen to me. Counselors are watching emails, okay? Teachers might not now answer or be responsible to look at emails, but believe me, by the middle of August, they will. So you need to be proactive. And what do I mean about proactive? I mean that you must contact your counselor now. Some of the counselors had you do like an information sheet that you handed in or you're responsible for. Here's another thing. Maybe it's a really good idea for you to sit down, mom and dad, or somebody, again, that's a great writer, and kind of write your own recommendation letter. I know that sounds kind of weird. However, that way, if you have something that needs to be inside that recommendation letter that maybe your counselor doesn't understand, or maybe your counselor doesn't know about you, or maybe you've said it to them and they have, 75 other letters to write and they forgot. There could be many reasons, but maybe you kind of draft a little bit of a letter of recommendation and you send it to them and say, I know how busy you are and I really wanted to reach out and offer, the ideas that I have in this letter of recommendation. If you get a negative response from your counselor, I will be surprised, okay? They would probably appreciate this, especially now. So be proactive, contact your counselor now. Don't wait until the middle of September or October to start talking to your counselor about letters of recommendation. So schools that used to be only one letter of recommendation might take two. In fact, they might even take three. So again, another thing to ask that representative from the school, how many will you allow me to send, okay? If you weren't able to work, but you had been at this job for the last 5 years, you were a lifeguard, and you can't be a lifeguard because the pool's not open, or I can't be a coach, a swimming coach, because my team's not doing. Get a letter from your swimming coach that says, you know, Susie was in my, was a coach for our pool for the last 8 years, and over the 8 years, she accomplished X, Y, Z. Again, these types of letters will probably help you a lot, especially if you're going in with no test scores, okay? So letters of recommendation, be proactive, ask about it. Contact your coaches. There's a lot of things you can do, but the number one thing is you need to make sure that the schools will accept them. Some schools will, and again, some schools may not be hiring somebody outside of the school to read them. So, and again, colleges are not going to tell you that they've hired somebody outside because they don't want that to get out. That's something as an admissions person previously I can tell you. So that's not something, if you call them and said, are you going to hire out? They're probably going to tell you no. Okay, so you need to, when you're sending a letter of recommendation or request to the teacher, make sure, because some of you haven't even asked teachers yet. So this is the time to say, you know, Mrs. Smith, I was planning on asking you in March. However, unfortunately, we weren't able to, and I'd really be honored if you would write my letter of recommendation. You need to pour your heart out to them, because remember, these teachers are more than ever faced with an enormous amount of responsibilities, whether it's teaching teaching classes every hour by Zoom, can you only imagine, or meetings. They're required to be in staff meetings. They're required to be in special education meetings. You name it, there are meetings. I have a friend of mine who's a teacher, and I'm telling you, from the time she gets up in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, she's either in meetings, talking to students, or making lesson plans. So they're busy, okay? So again, let's be proactive. Let's send this teacher a nice little note and say, you know, for example, remember when I did a project on XYZ, you loved it and you gave me an A. Or remember, I raised my hand every day in class. You know, I'm the one that's always there to give an answer. Tell them, let them know so they can put this in their letter. They want anecdotes. Colleges want that. They want to know, how are you in class? So when you're reaching out to that teacher, make sure you're reaching out to a teacher that you trust. Make sure you're reaching out to a teacher that you know will actually write the letter. If this teacher is not turning work back into you, you might want to rethink that, because if they're not turning homework back to you then I can tell you it's probably going to be really hard for them to do it now, especially with all of this going on. So think about who will write it, who will be important for you, and again, how you can help them write that letter. Okay, you can even email them and say, would it help you if I drafted a letter for you? These are all important things. Make their life a little bit easier, and believe me, you will get great results from this, okay? If you don't, I apologize, but the majority of people that I've talked to, all my teacher friends said, I would love that if a student did it. So again, be proactive. Okay, let's get on to the next thing. Sports and talent, okay? So this one is a little complicated. And for those of you that are being recruited by sports or a coach, or you have a talent, or you want to audition for singing, or you have an art portfolio, or any of those unique situations, I have to be honest with you, you're going to have to really reach out to these coaches, because a lot of them are being told that they can't give you commitment letters. And I'm sorry to give you that bad news if you haven't heard it already, but you got to realize some of these schools are going to be cutting sports. So it's going to be one of the first things to go. And again, I don't want to be the one that tells you yes, they are, or no, they're not. I want to be realistic with you. That's how I am. I am a straight shooter. Anybody that knows me knows that. I will tell you exactly how it is. And the reality is some schools will not be able to give you a commitment letter. So you need to reach out to that coach if you've been being recruited. If you're actively being recruited, you need to talk to them now and find out what's going on. If you're thinking about being a sports person, you need to reach out to the coach and say, what's going to be the process for sports recruitment? Are you even going to have it? Is it going to be a walk-on? Do they even know? I mean, here's the thing, so many schools don't even know. I don't think schools know if they're going to even have football in the fall because they're still waiting to hear. So, it's also it is what it is, and we have to realize that it's nobody's fault. It just is the way it is right now. And the most important thing to do is stay healthy. Okay, so keep your strength up by doing your exercises and all that. But believe me, you'll have time to do your sports, okay? You're going to have 4 years in school, if not more. Even when you go to grad school, you can still play sports. So it will come back. But you need to make sure that you've contacted them if this is something you're going to do. Okay, how will talent be measured, all right? If you're auditioning, if you know you're going to be auditioning, I will assure you it will be by Zoom, or they will require a YouTube video, or they will require a CD of your music, whatever they require. They are going to have all of that information on their website. And again, go to the actual department. So if you're, doing a drama interview or a theater production, or you're doing a voice or whatever it is, go to that specific department and look up requirements, because they may not necessarily have that on their main page. You may have to literally go to that department, reach out to that department head and ask them what they're doing this year. So some have already, gotten this information out, some have not. But again, this is your time to sit down and call. And again, the admissions officer may not know if they're going to, the music department is going to be doing Zoom auditions. So that's not an admissions question, that's a department question, okay? So make sure you reach out and, if it's the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University or wherever it is, make sure you reach out to them and find out what you have to do. Same thing with the art schools. They're not going to be able to come and look at your portfolio. You're not going to get it reviewed. So you need to figure out if they're going to have somebody, review your art by sending it to them. However you can do that. Again, this is again, your responsibility to find out. All right. Let's talk about a couple other things that I need you to understand, and then we're going to go into your next steps. So your next steps are things that I need to explain that you need to do. Okay, so let's go on to that. Let's move on to your next steps. And I repeat this a lot, but you need to understand that you can only control what you can control, and that's yourself. You can't control what's happening in our area. You can't control what's going on with COVID. You can't control that you can't go to work, or that we can't go to school, and you can't do all those activities. And I know this is difficult. Believe me, it's difficult for me. I love seeing kids. I love being in front of people. I love hugging. I'm a hugger. And I just can't tell you, it's hard for all of us. No matter what age you are, it's hard. And you've got to take a deep breath and remember, you can only control what you can control. And your control is now. This is the time to sit down and do all of those things that you can do, okay? And you can do them. You have the time. Take the time to do them and control what you can, okay? If you have anxiety, get help, all right? Don't stress over the past. The past is done. My mother always told me that's water under the bridge. And it is definitely an idiom that is so true. Okay, so it's done, it's over, it's gone. You can't take it back. So again, all of these things can be explained on any college application, all right? And you can concentrate and move forward. The other thing is follow the directions, okay? If whatever the college applications say, follow them, write them down, make a list, follow a chart, a deadline chart, follow whatever it is. If you're still studying for your test, make sure that you take that time to study so your scores are what you want them to do. If you've already taken the test and you're like, I'm really stressed and I'm not going to take this test again because I'm just not, moms and dads, you need to understand that they can submit the scores that they have. Maybe the scores won't get them into Harvard, okay? But, here's the realistic thing. You want them to be healthy. And anxiety is not going to help any of us, especially when it comes to test scores. So again, do what you can do. Some kids are really anxious and they want them. Oh, great. That's perseverance and that's control. So, okay, so let's control what you can. Make a schedule, study, get extra assistance in subjects you can. Okay. Narrowing down your list. I need to read something to you that I think is going to be extremely important. And again, this is something that you have to understand. This year is extremely unpredictable. And a student that is considering a selective school, like possibly a Harvard, a Yale, Cornell, MIT, and all of those schools, just because they're test optional and you have no test scores, okay? You can certainly do that. However, you need to understand that the school is extremely competitive. So you're going to be competing with kids that do have test scores or possibly have the GPA that might be higher. You need to before you decide that you're going to, take a chance on every single reach school out there, you need to narrow that list. You need to possibly put 3 or 4 non-competitive ranking schools that might be more flexible on academic achievements, okay? Here's the other thing schools are gonna look for and steps that you should follow. They're going to be looking for, balance, okay? They're going to be looking for diversity, geographical, socioeconomical, ideological, some other form. They're going to make this diversity matter count. Doesn't matter what you are or what you are not. There's so many things in a diversity that they're looking for. So again, a college is a community and they're building a community. Make you be a part of the community they want, okay? So it might not be a Harvard or a Yale, but it could be a great school that you may not have considered that it might be test optional. You might be right there with your GPA. So again, narrow down that list because you might be missing something and you might just automatically think, gosh, it's test optional. I'm going to apply to every school out there. Okay. You need to go in and you need to research what's their average GPA getting into that school. That's not going to change, my friends. So if their average GPA was a 4.5 and you're sitting with a weighted of 3.8, no scores, and no matter what the extracurricular is still going to be very difficult to get into that school, okay? So you got to be realistic, all right? The other thing you need to understand is you're not alone with this, okay? Every single solitary from every student across the United States are in the same shoes you are. Okay, so you're not alone, and you're not going to be the only one that doesn't have the exact test score you want or hasn't taken them. Okay, so just remember that. I want to bring out something that, again, I talked about before. Self and family care is extremely important. If that's something that you've had to deal with, but you need to put it in the application. Either way, if it's self and you've had to self quarantine yourself, or whatever the case is, or your medical health is impounded, and you can't. It's not easy for you you're compromised if you go out, then that's something you need to tell them, okay? But here's the other thing, and I don't know how many students, I know the adults know what grit is, but if a student is hearing this for the first time, you need to go on Google and look up exactly what grit is, because this is something they're going to be looking for. And here I wrote them down, some characteristics, the 5 characteristics that colleges are going to look for throughout your application, okay? Courage. You think of courage and a physical bravery, but there are many forms of courage, okay? Courage is what we're doing right now. We're encouraged, okay? So everybody is showing this. I'm getting goosebumps. You guys can't see it, but everybody, we've all had courage throughout this whole thing, okay? Conscientiousness, okay? It's a personality trait, and you're being careful, vigilant, respectful. All of those things are going to be in your application. They're going to show up in your activities. They're going to show up in your letters of recommendation. They're going to show up in the kind of classes you've taken. You're conscientious about your work, and you're getting your work done. Perseverance. So, okay, so you didn't take every honors class in 9th grade, or, for that matter, 10th grade, but you've persevered and you've stuck it through and you've raised that grade point average. I tell this story a lot. For those of you that know me a lot, I tell this all the time. My daughter started out with a horrible GPA, but by the end of first semester, her GPA went up 4 points. So perseverance, it's important. How are you doing through all of this? Okay, your resilience. What are you doing? Are you resilient? Do you get up from failure to keep going? Passion. Passion's going to show up with your activities. Passion's going to show up. Have you done this a long time? Have you, what have you done that's passionate to help others? So just think about those 5 traits when you're writing your application activities, when you're writing your essay, when you're thinking about getting in touch with teachers about your letters of recommendation, okay? These are things you can control, you can do. And moms and dads, I know I've been through it twice, and I know it's very difficult not to do it for your child. Believe me, I wanted to do it all. I was a college counselor when my daughter went to school. I knew everything. Why would I want anybody else to do her application? Well, not the case, okay? And it was very difficult for me to walk away and say anything, but guess what? You have to, because they're admitting your child, not you. And I will tell you that they will know. They will know if you've done their essay. They will know if you're the ones that are emailing. They will know if you're the ones on Facebook. They will know because it's under your email address. So remember that. Okay, you can guide your student, and absolutely, we all want to guide, and that's, I guide, we all guide, moms and dads, grandparents, aunts and uncles, peers, we all guide, but we won't want to do, okay? We want to put it in their hands, because believe me, this is going to be a time when they need to learn it, because what are we going through right now? We don't know if we're going to do this again. So I thank you for being here tonight. If you've got questions, again, I can read them through chat. And Jeremy's here. We're going to go through your questions and answers. Help is here, whichever way you want to reach out and do it. But, please understand your child's not alone. And they will be admitted to college. There's a college out there for every single student, I promise. All right, Jeremy, I'm ready for questions.
Well, it looks like we actually didn't get any questions coming into the session, so I think we'll just go ahead and end it now. If you do have questions after the presentation, please do email us. We'd be happy to answer them and help you out in any way, shape, or form. I appreciate you coming on tonight and joining us.
Okay. Jeremy, I did have one. It's a question about ACTs, and do you know if kids will be able to take just a section of the ACT in the fall, or will they need to take the full ACT? I know Ann and Jeremy have been researching this, and so have I, and the question is, we don't know. When you, if that's something that you're interested in, I would definitely contact ACT, or when you register for the ACT, see if they're allowing you to do one section. But we, again, Jeremy, do you know anything about that? I don't.
The most recent thing that they have said is that they're going to delay it until at least they can get through this period right now where they don't have any tests being available. So I would imagine that they will bring it back in the late fall, early winter, maybe the spring. Right now they have bigger issues to deal with. People aren't being able to register for the exams. That registration opened up yesterday, and they had to take it back offline again yesterday, and then they're going to try and launch it again, I think, tomorrow. So they have bigger issues right now, but I think they do really intend to have section testing available for potentially not the class of 2021, but maybe the class of 2022, which is hard to say right now.
Okay, well, if you have any questions, remember we are here to help you. I hope this was helpful for everyone, and I really appreciate you tuning in. And good luck to everybody. And remember, you've got this. You're not alone. All right. See you later.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.